Welcome back, everybody. This is Ahmed.
And your boy Luffy.
And this is the Brotherly Love Podcast, episode
21 Savage.
21. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
As you can tell, there's a little more different, a little more difference in terms of the angles. We're still trying to test everything
trying to hit
out.
them angles.
Anyway, no, we're just pretty much just trying to test out like different angles, making sure that we
see our good side on TV.
But also just make sure that, what I'm saying? Just trying to figure out like what's the best way. You guys can see
us, there's transparency in our conversations.
I don't know whose man's this is, bro. I swear, like this man has never been this like...
I haven't even started drinking my coffee, too.
Yeah, and he's so energetic.
Bro, I just be energetic when we be shooting the podcast, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm either very chill and relaxed, or I'm just like, yo, I'm hyped to do it. Let's talk. Boom, 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 boom. Man, how has your week been?
A lot, man. A lot going on the past couple weeks. Just a lot of work. Today's a great day. Every day's a great day if you believe it to be so, but today's a good day because it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So Thanksgiving episode. Woo, woo. Who else shoots episodes on Thanksgiving?
Probably not a lot of people.
No. Cause why? Because they want to spend time with their family. They don't want to work. I wanna spend time with my family.
This man is clowning people for spending time with their family. It's like, oh, you spend time with your family? Oh, what are you, gay, nigga? Like, damn.
Nah, it's cool because like you're my family. So me working today, or us shooting the podcast, it's more.
It doesn't even really feel like work though. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, we're just talking, have a genuine conversation. Like I said before, although we live in the same household and although we have a lot of proximity towards each other, it doesn't feel like I have an actual conversation with you until we have this podcast and when we're able to actually sit down and spend quality time. Like, there's a book, I'm rereading it, The Way of the Superior Man. And it was saying, like, let's say, for instance, when you have children, people think in order for you to be like the best like father or the best mother, you have to spend like all your time and quality, like spend all your time with them. But it's like, if you are able to differentiate between going from, let's say, oh, I spent all day with them, but you weren't really engaging with them, to maybe 1 or 2 hours of like pure engagement, undivided attention, they will remember that way much more than if you were just like, oh, we're just going to go to the store. We're going to, just simple stuff like that. So I'm learning to do that with the relationships I have with people because I'm realizing that, one, time is valuable, but also like it's so important to understand why you are in the relationships that you have with people. You know what I'm saying? Like understand who they are as people.
Yeah, I mean, quality time is just that. It's quality time, Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, they just kind of coexist and cohabitate in a way where, you ever heard the phrase like familiarity breeds content?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like in that way, a lot of families, like, each other so much that like, you hate each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause you know everything about people, right?
Yeah.
And like, that's the crazy thing too. Familiarity breeds content. So a lot of people have issues in their families, right? But if you acknowledge that familiarity can breed content, right? I feel like it helps you realize that there's no perfect person and how you just kind of have to let stuff slide, because content is going to grow when you continue. The more and more I know about someone, the more and more reasons I learn why I don't like someone. Just as much as, when you're in love with someone and you're starting a relationship, they're like, oh, it's great spending every day with you because every day I find out new things about you that I love. And
the puppy dog phase.
Yeah, but it's like during that time, you're also finding out new things about them that you hate.
Yeah.
It's just about what level of consciousness are you bringing to each side of the person, because we're all multifaceted, right? So over time, as you grow more and more numb to like those emotions, and like you can be more raw with like, yo, this is what it is. You an asshole, bro. Like, or
Yeah.
in certain, or you a blah blah, or you're acting, or whatever. Like, it breeds some level of content. So, I think it's interesting because I was having a conversation with one of my friends yesterday, and we were talking about the fact that like, for some reason, people think settling is a bad thing.
Like, you say settling, are you saying that with like, like romantic, like kind of love, or are you just saying, okay.
Like, I think you should settle.
You think that you should settle?
Yeah. Like, I think that if you're one of those people who are like, oh, I don't want to settle, right? What tends, and I understand the mindset behind it, right? And the mindset behind it's great. But what ends up happening a lot of times, or what I've seen, is like those people are like, oh, I don't want to settle for less than what I'm worth. And you shouldn't, right? But that very easily, there's another side of that that's toxic, which is like, I don't want to settle. And then there's no one that fits this exceedingly large bill of demands.
Okay.
Because that person doesn't really exist.
Okay, so before we continue, let's like break all this down because you have a lot of loaded things that you're just speaking. No. Don't apologize for living your life, bro. You know what I'm saying? I always say that to my friends. Don't ever apologize for living your life, for living your truth and speaking unapologetically.
If my truth, right, was hooking up with your girlfriend.
Oh, nah.
No, I'm just...
That'd be a terrible truth. No. Okay, so when you say settling, right, what do you mean by settling?
I think that's a really good question because I think then this is where it kind of goes into two different directions, right? I think a lot of people, when they think about settling, they think about like compromise. They think about giving up like things that you wanted. They think about good enough. That phrase is, oh, they're good enough, or this is good enough for the moment, but it's not what I ultimately want. A lot of times what you ultimately want isn't found in the wild. It's like if you find, it's like what's that nigga's name in Pokemon? The electric nigga.
What's that electric nigga? Pikachu?
Yeah. So, but it wasn't my mind. It wasn't going to Pikachu. It was going to the evolved version, Raichu.
Oh, yeah, Raichu.
Yeah. So like, there's no wild Raichus, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You gotta get a Pikachu first.
You gotta get a Pikachu and then evolve, like through your relationship with the Pikachu. You train in the Pikachu. You feel me? Like,
this sounds like such a bad, like, I know exactly what you mean, and it's a good way, but also at the same time, this could be phrased like,
or you gotta
train in them.
Train your woman to feed you.
Terrible. I understand that completely.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I mean. It's like, look, the settlement thing, like, it's because it's the word settling. I feel like it has a lot of like you said, loaded things with it, connotations, right? But if you look at it more so like, I understand that I'm not a perfect person. I understand that any potential partner I might find isn't going to be perfect, but it's a matter about what am I willing to put up with? Like, which character flaws and personality traits that I'm not necessarily a fan of, or maybe ideas, am I willing to like let slide and work through and address and communicate about our differences, and like which things have to be there. And I think that when we talk about settling, is because that, be like, girl, don't settle for that. Or bro, like, you a king, pick up your crown, like what? And a lot of times, like, they're coming from the right place and from the right intention, because the other side of that very much does exist, the codependency, and like, I need to be with someone, and it's not about settling, it's about getting anything you can get. Like, that other side of it is extremely toxic too. But I do think that like a lot of times people and this happens more so people in relationships, they've been dating for 6 months to a year, something, they're like, bro, this is getting stale. This is boring. It's like, bro, relationships are kind of boring. Like, you don't really go into a relationship for new and exciting, even if you are the type of person where it's like,
it's for companionship.
It's for companionship. It's for stability. It's for predictability, consistency. It's almost the exact opposite reasons of why you choose to like exclusively date someone is why you would choose to be single. Almost, like, you know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
I think the word settling a lot of time does get that that bad rep where it's like, oh, like you shouldn't be settling for that. Like, you deserve more, whatever it is. But it's like, okay, let's say, for instance, just to be real, I'm not gonna bag a 10. You know what I'm saying? Like, and a 10 isn't necessarily the physical traits and that's it, but a 10 is literally the ultimate woman for me. You know what I'm saying? You will never get that 10 until you start working with them and understand them and understand their flaws. And one thing I've learned from relationships, from past relationships, is that when you have a growing relationship, it's not a basis of, oh, I do this for you, so you do this for me. It's not transactional. It's more so about, you have these flaws, let me understand them and then help you like guide to a better light than what you were before. That's it. There's no, I'm here to change you and control you. No, I have no part in that. You have to do that yourself. You know what I'm saying? But if you're able to say, like, you know what, maybe, and you tell them, like, you know, like, oh, I've noticed that you've done this, or you do this kind of thing, maybe we should change this kind of behavior. And they help you out in those kind of aspects. So you go from a 6 to an 8. You know what I'm saying? Even after a relationship, you're still an 8. There's no, oh, I went all the way back to 1. No, nigga. Like, what do you mean? Like, you are now an 8, not only because of the relationship, but also from the values that you've learned and the traits that you've learned from yourself, and how you're able to work on the negative factors about yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, no one's a perfect person. Like, regardless if it's romantic or platonic, I think it was like maybe like last year, or even like maybe this year, it fully like dawned on me. I was like, yo, my parents are people too. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of, like, I think as when you grow up, especially when you're a kid, like, you don't really notice them as human beings. You just see them as your parents. But when you start growing up and you start seeing things about yourself as well, you're like, oh no, these are people, bro. These are human beings that have lives and that have emotions and that have flaws, just like myself. And I think maybe settling is like a weird word to say. Maybe it's like, instead of you should settle, it should be like, you should have a companion. I don't really know. It's a weird way to phrase it.
There's you brought up a couple different things. Like, one, in terms of like transactional relationships, that's another phrase, right, that people use, and they're like, this is not the type of relationship you want. You don't want a transactional relationship. It's difficult for me to understand, so I'm gonna, place the burden on you, like, to break that down, because from my understanding, every relationship is transactional. You don't have relationships with other people if there's not something that you want to gain from that relationship.
Okay, that's true. I guess when I think of transactional, it is coming from a negative place. It's more so like, I do this for you, so you do this for me. But instead of it being a place of benefit and where it's like a nourishment, it's more so like, I'm gonna drain you because I want these certain things.
Because any relationship, if you think about, like, bro, if I was married and I had a wife, for instance, right? And say, for instance, she decided to stay at home with the kid. She would expect that I do certain things, and I would expect that she does certain things. Or if you think about two other people in two other sorts of, situations or contexts, like, there's a certain level of expectations that you have in the relationship. I think the transactional thing is like you said, where does the intention come from? Right? Is the intention about growing the relationship, or is it about draining the relationship for its resources?
Yeah.
If you're trying to grow the resources that are within the relationship, you have to grow the two people in the relationship. If you're just looking to drain the resources, it's like, all right, like, well, I made you food 3 days ago, so like, you're supposed to pay for this tonight, and like, and y'all are married and then you wonder why people get divorced. I was telling my boy about this. I was like, bro, the number one cause of divorce is money.
Really?
Yeah, like, it's financial. Like, think about all the people out here cheating. Like, people can get over cheating, but money is like, causes all these problems. And like, a big part of it is because there's, like you said, there's a lot of like transactional mindsets, or like transactional in like things about money that I think that, like, a lot of men, they grow up with, and a lot of women too, about what role your partner is supposed to play in money. And like, it breeds a lot of unhealthy things. Like, there's a lot of people in relationships where it's like, they have no idea about the finances. It's like, oh, my partner handles that. Are you a child? What do you mean your partner handles that? Like, you're an adult. Like, you're supposed to have like, and it doesn't matter. Say I'm bringing home 100% of the money. My wife needs to still know.
Yeah.
She needs to know. She needs to this is the day we get paid. These are all our bills. She needs to be just as much involved in the budgeting process. It doesn't matter if I bring home all the money. Just like it doesn't matter if she's the one who's staying at home with the kid. I still need to raise my kid because I'm an adult.
Yeah, like there's I forgot where I read this from, but it was pretty much probably like a YouTube video where you know, a lot of times, especially with how feminism is now, I think feminism in general is a great movement, but there, like in any kind of movement, there's the people who are outliers and people who are the extremists of it. And the people who are extremists of feminism they're not most likely, they are like, I'm doing this like, oh, like I deserve to have these rights and these equality things, you know, boom, 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 boom. But when it's presented, it's like, oh, but I don't want to do that though. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think, especially now how America's going, it's like, yo, it doesn't matter if you are the bread maker. It doesn't matter if you are the child taker. You still have to be engaged in both of those, you know, both of those outlets. Because if you're only in one side and think, oh, this is my only sole responsibility. No, not at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to know what's going on as well. So that way you can be prepared if there is a mishap, if there's something going on, you know what I'm saying? You need to be involved into both of these segments of your life. So like and you know, and like I said,
two wholes coming together.
Yeah, it's two wholes coming together. You need to understand it. But I was gonna say, like, this is definitely from, you know, what we have been pressured into is that, oh, men, you get all the money. You know what I'm saying? You make the bread. The women, you take care of the children. And you don't have to worry about the physical labor. You don't have to worry about all that kind of stuff. But it's like, what do you mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, if we truly want equality in relationships, you both have to be putting in that same amount of work. Otherwise, it's someone's gonna always resent you for some kind of thing. Like, it's like, oh, I'm always, let's say for instance, the guy's like, oh, I'm always doing the dishes, da 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 da, and then I'm not saying this is all girls. This is probably like a small fraction of girls, but it's like, but I gave you okay, like that doesn't, you know what I'm saying? That's not gonna add up to what I want and not my actual relationship. Like, if you can offer me more than just that, if just the physical, then there can be something going on. But like, sometimes people think that's all they have to offer, or it's like just like kind of the bare minimum.
It's tricky because that is an important part of relationships, right? But like, if the relationship's built off of that, then, you know, what else can you possibly expect?
Oh, sure. That's definitely
you know,
true.
to happen. I mean, let's be honest too. Like, a lot of people in general, like, they don't put themselves with good partners because, you know, they're not looking at it that way. They're not looking at it as a partnership. It's more,
they're looking at it transactional.
Yeah, they're looking at it like, yo, like, this chick is cool. She comes over Friday nights me off. You know what I'm saying? Saturday we be chilling. Like, and then she's gone on Sunday, and then I don't gotta worry about her and this and that. And then they live that life for 3-4 years where it's like, I got this chick who just steady comes over and, you know, gives me the whoppy toppy, like
the whoppy toppy.
And all I gotta do is continue working and having, you know, paying my bills to pay for this apartment, which I was gonna do anyways. You know, so it's like, and then so that's what you end up thinking, like, that's all the relationship really needs and stuff like that. When it's like, you know, it's a lot more, especially if you're not thinking about 3 years of happiness. If you're trying to think about 30 years of happiness and one of you guys wants a kid or one of you guys wants this and that, like, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces to it, you know? And it's really like, you know, you started off kind of saying, like, your parents are people too. So, you know, it's really not, this is what I was trying to say, is like, it's really not any different from building a good relationship with your parents as a child. You know, and like, and it's tough for me because, like, I get that not everyone has the same circumstances. Like, a lot of people grew up in single family households. A lot of people grew up in 2-parent households where their parents were assholes, or, you know, or like they were just objectively bad parents to them at the time, whatever. Right. But it's like, you kind of have to, we said, like, accept people's character flaws, right? If you choose to keep them around. Like, I'm not saying you have to, oh, family is always family. Like,
no,
family is always going to be your family, but you can choose who you interact with within your family.
No, yeah. That's what I was going to say. I was like, it doesn't necessarily matter if you're blood or not. You know what I'm saying? For me to consider you my family, you don't need to be blood.
But you do immediately consider people who are blood
Of
family.
course, of
Yeah,
course,
so I'm
and
like, so then it
that's
does
growing
matter.
up. But like once you start understanding, and I was gonna bring this up. Like I think the key term of this year is boundaries, right? A lot of times, people would be like, "Oh, you like, what do you mean you're not gonna talk to your family? Like that's not like you should like they're like your family, or like they'll try to put expectations on you of how you should feel. But it's like you don't even know the circumstances I'm in terms of why I don't, let's say for instance I don't speak to a certain family member or whatever it is. You can have your reasonings, and if they're legitimate reasons and they obviously are like making it worse for you, you don't need to like associate them with your quote unquote family. Now obviously in terms of blood, yeah, they're your family. 100, blood is family.
I think it's getting too semantical in a sense, like because you're missing kind of the point. I feel like the point isn't to push people away. It's the opposite. It's not. My point isn't to say that you can choose and decide who's your family. So if someone's not rocking with you like that, push them away. I'm making actually the opposite point. I'm saying that even if someone's pushed you away, if you don't have it within yourself to like overcome that, and I'm not saying mend the whole relationship, but if you can't at least forgive them, right? Truly forgive someone else and move past the situation, right? Like you can forgive someone and stop talking to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's completely cool as long as you've reached peace within yourself that like, yo, I've forgiven them for what they've done. I understand how if I was 22 and I just had a child too, I might have felt this way and blah, blah, blah. Because a lot of people, like you said, like they'll grow up, then they'll be 25 and they'll be like, damn, I just realized my dad had me 5 years ago. No wonder that nigga left. I'm not saying it's that easy, right? Or what, because all that shit affects you. But if you can reach that level of empathy, love, and like understanding with the relationships that you have with your family members, then I think that you can develop very good relationships with other people.
No,
That's the point I was trying to make.
and then I agree with that. I was just adding on. I was like, if after that fact, let's say for instance, once you have at least try to make amends, or at least forgiven them. Like I really think as people, you cannot move on with your life until you have forgiven the people who have hurt you, and also forgiving yourself for hurting other people. You know what I'm saying? People want to act like they don't hurt people. Nigga, you hurt people all the, not saying you know what I'm saying, but plural, like nigga, you hurt people all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like to act like you haven't hurt anyone or you haven't like made any kind of wrongs is like, it's like ignorance is bliss in a way. You know what I'm saying? I think in order for you to truly evolve, you need to reach out to the people who have hurt you, express how you felt, but also in a way of forgiveness of like, you understand why that happened. Now, but after that, you don't have to talk to them anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like if you choose to like, have your own boundary and be like, I don't want to talk to this person anymore, but I have forgiven them for what they have done, that is okay. That I think that is healthy. But in terms of just like F everybody, I'm not going to talk to anybody, boom, 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 and trying to push every single person away, that is a very toxic kind of mindset.
Yeah, my philosophy is always like, but not always, I'm not going to front. Like I try to like, you extend the olive branch and then walk away.
Yeah.
Like that's all it is. Like you extend, well, obviously you have to have done your own healing, quote unquote, so that you could extend the olive branch, but you just extend it and walk away. You don't even see if once they grab onto it, then you'll know, and then you can walk back to the whatever. But like, it's almost like you're throwing out 100 fishing rods. It's like, I'm gonna just cast out this fishing rod and like,
I'm gonna just chill.
Whatever, I'm gonna just chill. Like, at the end of the day, the fish can decide what the fish wants to do. You know what I'm saying? You getting froggy, nigga, jump. No, I'm saying. But like, yeah, like I do think though that you do have an onus for your relationships, right? Like for the health of your relationships, even if it was a whole bunch of shit that happened to you. And because, then you'll end up in a situation like you're saying with the ignorance is bliss, where it's like, I was listening to NPR on the radio yesterday, and the lady was talking about a study that like she had just finished conducting or whatever, and she was talking to people who had like women who had gotten divorced and then remarried. Right. And a lot of those women who gotten divorced and remarried, what they realized is like, yo, their first husband really didn't do that much bad. Like, and a lot of these women, right, who like she was interviewing, they actually got divorced twice. Like they got married, divorced, married someone different, and then divorced them too. Right. And like when she would talk to them, they'd be like, yeah, during my second marriage, right? So think about the time, like this is on their second marriage is when they're realizing that, oh, I don't really think my husband did anything that wrong in the first marriage. Now, why would the realization hit them then instead of like any time in between? Like you would think that, I mean, I'm not saying you have to fully heal all, before you can do anything else. Like,
No, we're constantly,
yeah, we're
you know
constantly healing. Life is a battle.
But you need to at least have like a good ground structure before you even proceed further.
Yeah, because and the reason a lot of those women she was saying, the argument she was making, they got divorced twice, is exactly what you were saying, is that they never fully like actualize that realization. They never fully grasped it. The ones who stayed married the second time, she was saying like they got it, but it only hit them in that second relationship because they were feeling all the same feelings that they had the first time, except they were like, bro, like this is something then wrong with me probably. You know what I'm saying? And then it was starting to hit them. But think of how much has passed them during that time. Like you could have divorced your first husband almost 5 years ago, like, which means that like there's people who are going to be going around 5 years, right, without an apology, right? Just like your dad might have walked out on you 20 years ago and has never apologized. That dude, or you as a child whose dad walked away 20 years ago, if you don't learn to forgive your ex-wife for whatever, you're probably not going to reach that healthy state to re-enter a relationship. And that's what ends up happening with a lot of these dudes who it's like they get divorced because their wife was on some other shit, right? And they end up getting divorced.
Yeah.
And then they go complete red pill MGTOW, like, oh, fuck all women, you know what I'm saying? You just have to be a bachelor and like just have, just smash women and stuff, but don't
ever
get
cuff.
Don't ever cuff and get into a relationship.
It's similar to
and they're really hurt too.
Oh no, yeah. The dudes who are all red pill, you know what I'm saying? They're like F these bitches, blah blah blah. Like they're deeply, deeply hurt. I always like whenever someone's like that, I keep my distance. I'm like, yo, something is literally internally wrong.
It's like, bro, you got butt hurt.
You got butt hurt by something. Yeah.
It's
It's
like,
similar
nigga,
to,
you don't think I got my heart broken?
It's similar to the dudes who got like heartbroken in middle school type stuff, and then they take it with them for years, and then they become
successful later on in life, and then they start rejecting girls because, oh, when I was in middle school, these girls didn't like me.
But now you like me.
But now they like, it's like, yeah, nigga,
because
you were
you're
a
different
loser
person
in middle school. You were a loser in middle school.
Loser.
Why would they want to date you?
No, yeah, I had to. There was a point as well. Like I was questioning myself. I was like, yo, why is it now that that shawty's like me? You know what I'm saying? Because I was still
you have something to offer now.
Sorry. I mean, no, it's all good. Let me explain. But I was doing some like retrospection in terms of like my past kind of thing, and I was like, yo, like when I was in middle school, even in high school, nigga, I was a nerd. Like I had no swag, nothing. I had nothing, whatever it is. But so much you said, like, but now I have something to offer, and now I have some kind of value, and I think men especially shouldn't see that as like, oh, now you like me now. It's like, be happy that they like you now. You know what I'm saying? That means you have potential. That means you have something going on for you.
Here's the hard truth, right? Because it's a double-edged sword. Like this is one of the difficulties of life, right? There's always these contradictory truths that exist. What we're saying is completely true, right? But what's also true is the way that men are raised is that you're supposed to like me for me, right? Like that, because we get so fed about, oh, woman's gonna take your money, and as soon as it's gone, she's gone too. Because we're so that message gets so pushed into our heads, like it tells us that like, yo, when you find a girl, like, especially if you're about your shit and you're trying to like make moves and money stuff, you have to make sure like this chick likes you for you, not for all the other stuff, because you don't know what's gonna happen to all that other stuff, right? And that's true. Like the woman should like you for you, meaning she should like your character, not just your quote unquote like the personality, the stuff on the outside. She should like the stuff on the inside, your integrity, the honesty, the blah blah blah. blah.
That's what I mean by value, though.
Yeah. But here's the thing is like, did you value that when you were 12 or 13? Or did you value the chick with the cute face and the fat ass?
That's true. But what I'm saying also is like, I understand what you're saying. It is a double-edged sword. Is that, at first glance, you know what I'm saying? It's usually the appearance. It's usually the accolades. It's usually, just the appearance of it, right? And I do think that has value. But in terms of the long-term relationships or the reason why they like you, that could be an artificial reason, yes, but it's also because you've upgraded your integrity, you've upgraded your self-confidence, you've upgraded these qualities that you thought were good when you were like 12 or 13, whatever it is, but then you worked on them. You worked on yourself as a person. That's why I always say, like, there's a difference when a man who, I'm saying, has no direction in life and has no like kind of ambition and is just waltzing through life without any kind of means, usually isn't seen as attractive, right? But when a man internally works on himself constantly, there's a different kind of energy that he brings to the room that women can know immediately. I believe that women have low-key a radar in a way that's like who has the most value, not just in terms of the money accolades. That's artificial, but you as a person.
I don't get that. Like why are you separating the two? Like that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. Is like, why are you separating you from the stuff that you do and that you've produced?
I'm not like, although in a way the conversation, what I was saying, it seemed like I was separating. No, they're the same entity, right? But they're like subcategories. That's all. So like, that's all I was saying. Like, yeah, they can definitely like you for your accolades, your money. I'm not excusing that whatsoever. But what I'm also saying, right, is that they can also like you, and majority will usually like you because of your integrity, because of your character.
I highly disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah.
Why?
Bro, I don't think you're walking down the street and a chick is like, oh, that's an attractive dude because he was honest in his conversations. They're looking at all the other stuff you were talking about, and then that makes the indication about all the other things. I actually don't think
so. Instead of it being like a two-way like separation, like here, maybe it's like a direct like vertical line. So maybe it's like appearance, and then it goes into that.
I'll say this: it's not all or nothing. Like it's not all women look at it this way or whatever. But societally, I think the majority of people, they're gonna look at it from outward appearances of success. Raise my attraction level enough to figure out if you have integrity and if you're responsible and if you're accountable and if you're blah, 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 blah.
I agree.
But I don't think people go around figuring out people's values first.
But that wasn't what I was.
But what I'm trying to say is all these women that you're getting now, right? They can't be attracted to you for your values if they're not going to take the time to get to know your values. And the only way they'll get to know your values is if those materialistic things are at the forefront, making you interesting enough for them to spend enough time to get to know your values. Like, you don't be walking up to ugly chicks and being like, dang, like, you're really trustworthy and accountable.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
So let me rephrase it, because we're on the same page. It's just the way I phrased it was just wrong. So initially, it is the appearance, it is the accolades, it is that. But I also believe that is a reflection of the inner work.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. Perfect.
That's
perfect. So like when you work on yourself, right, and when you work on your dream, but also like your character and your integrity, all those values, that is a direct reflection of the physical appearance, the physical accolades, the awards, just the attention that you have just from that, right? So I think that ultimately, like, in order for you to get that, you have to work on yourself first, because although that is what they find after they look at your initial appearance, that will never curate. That will never happen unless you work from the bottom up. Instead of going from the bottom, it's bottom up.
No, I think you can actually start from the top down. It's
really,
yeah, and you'll be successful, but it'll always be limited term success. You have to like you phrased it by saying for long term. I agree. Like if you're worried about, or if you're considering like finding good long term partnerships and building good relationships with people, I agree with the way that you're setting it up. But I think that the majority of men, like, if we're gonna be honest, they don't look at it that way. They look at it as like, let me do this stuff, right, or whatever, this work for myself. But that's not really the main goal. The main goal is that secondary stuff, because as long as the secondary stuff is there, the women are gonna be there. And all right, cool. Like, as long as the women are there, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? They're not thinking about like, yo, are the women gonna be there when you're 70 or 65 or 70? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
or whatever. Like, so like, yeah, I completely agree. And the reasons that people become attracted to different things, but going back to it, like, if you're in middle school, right, and like, women are pushing you away, and they're like, oh, I don't like this dude, and then you grow up and you become successful, and now women are attracted to you, and you have your pick of the litter, pretty much. Like, my point is, like, you should never resent them for not choosing you earlier, because you weren't worthy of being chosen earlier.
Yeah.
And it's not just the fact that you didn't have, like, like, going back to relating to what you're just saying, it's not because you didn't have the money when you were in middle school and stuff, whatever, but like, later on in life, as you worked on these things, you made yourself more attractive. Like, you made yourself a more viable option to people. And like, that's completely reasonable, because there's a lot of people that if you would have met them 10 years ago, you wouldn't be attracted to them, who they were. Yeah. They had to go through certain life experiences so that they could be molded into the individual that they are today.
Yeah. Like 100%.
Yeah. There was there's a chick one of my friends is dating, or he's seeing, and she looks amazing, like, very physically attractive woman, right? He showed me a picture of her from like 2 years ago. She sent him a picture. She weighed like 75, 80 pounds heavier than when she, like, it looks like two completely different people in the pic. Like, it's almost 100-pound weight loss. Like, it's ridiculous. And the conversation I was having with him is he was telling me, he was like, if I would have met her 2 years ago, he was like, I wouldn't even have looked twice, like, walking down the street.
Yeah.
And he was saying, like, is that wrong of me? He was laughing. So I was like, bro, to be honest with you, like, you can't help what you're attracted to, because what you're attracted to, just like what a woman's attracted to, indicates certain things about you as a person. It doesn't say everything about you, but it indicates certain things about you. And off of that indication, there's 7 billion people out here. I'm not going to spend an hour-long date with everyone to figure out if we got the same values. I have to use certain things to narrow down my list of people. Some people, their list is to narrow down is, I need someone who's over 6 foot with 6-pack abs. He drives a Mercedes S-Class. Like, whatever, right? But for instance, and it sounds ridiculous, right? But what does being over 6 foot tall indicate? It indicates that you're strong, right? To women, at least. Yeah. It indicates that you're strong. What is having 6-pack? It indicates that you're healthy. These are biological signals for women. Having the Mercedes S-Class indicates, it means, like, you have wealth. It means you have financial resources. You know what I'm saying? Like, it sounds superficial, whatever. Same thing as, like, when you look at a girl and, like, she's 75, 80 pounds overweight, you'd be like, me looking at her as someone who's, like, literally trying to become, like, a triathlete, I would immediately, the first thing I would think is, we don't have compatible lifestyles. We don't have compatible values, whatever. That doesn't mean immediately because I see a chick who's skinny, it's like, oh my God. Like, no, like, bunch of bad women, like, it doesn't matter what size. Bunch of good women, doesn't matter what size. But how you present yourself to the world is how the world receives your value structure. Like, you're a walking representation of your own value hierarchy. Like, there's some people, it's like they're 40 years old. Like, you'll meet, like, a woman who's 40 years old. She got, like, crinkly skin, and she just looks old at 40. And why? Because she valued smoking cigarettes more than she valued, like, other things. And you start to figure out, like, oh, these are the ramifications of your value structure. Like, we look like what we value.
I like that. I like that a lot. It's like you're the way that you work on yourself and the way that you present yourself, like you said, to the world, is how they will perceive you, regardless if it's good or if it's bad. And I wanted to touch on the artificial things, right? And I remember at one point I used to be like, yo, like, shawties that only want you for the money or the cars or how you, like, physically look, like, oh, they're so artificial. But at the same time, it's like, it biologically makes sense why they choose that. I'm not saying I condone that, you know what I'm saying? But I understand completely. It's like, You want someone who's physically healthy so that your offspring are healthy. You want someone who's tall so that your offspring can be like big people. You want someone who has financial resources so that you don't feel like you're ever going to be in debt or you're going to lose money. It makes sense. It's similar to why dudes like chicks with fat asses. It means you have big birthing hips. That means you can bear children. Yeah. That's the main reason. That's the same thing with like breasts. It's like having bigger breasts means you're able to supply more milk. It's all like a biological thing. So when we say, oh, that's so artificial, oh, you don't look at it for it looks, it's like, but that's what I'm going to look at first. I'm not going to, like you said, I'm not going to pull like, damn, shawty, I respect you so much. Damn,
shawty got the baddest personality, bro. Like,
brother, your values made me want to nut, my G.
Bruh.
Like, no, it's like, damn, look at that ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that. It's all real, like, simple, real simplistic things. But I guess the question I was going to ask you was, like, so now that we're talking about values and now that we're talking about how, men should approach the world, like, with their truest self, 100% their truest self, how can men that are listening to this, or even women, because I think it's a universal thing, how can they put themselves in a hierarchy that's like, for themselves, that's at a better place than what they are now? So pretty much, how can they better themselves?
I mean, I think you gave the answer, kind of. Like, it's all in your value hierarchy.
But that's the thing. Is it just values, or is it also...
I really think so, man, because, like, your interests, like what you're interested in, that's like almost like a reflection of your personality. True. It's like, oh, you like to read, you like Dungeons and Dragons, you like bowling, you like whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just all different variations. And, like, to be honest, and, like, that's the thing is, like, say you're looking for a partner, right? It's important that you guys have similar interests because, like, you guys, when you're chilling, you guys want to be doing the same, not the same thing all the time, but, like, I want to be like, yo, like, let's watch Dave Chappelle, and she's interested in Dave Chappelle because she appreciates that style of humor. Or I'm like, yo, let's go bowling, and say I like to bowl, right? I do, yeah. Right? But
bowling's cool.
Yeah, it is, right? And she's like, all right, cool. Like, I like to bowl. That's an activity that we can do, like, spend time together doing. But outside of that level, interest is probably the lowest level of compatibility, shared interest, right? Like, the next level up might be, like, goals. So this might be, like, how you developed a lot of friends in school, right? So, like, think of the first one is when you play, like, intramural basketball. The only thing that brought you guys together is you guys all like basketball. But that's good enough for, like, a casual friendship, right?
Yeah.
Think about the next level is, like, shared goals. Now you're in college. All of you around you have the goal of graduating. That goal is a lot stronger and a bigger unifier of the relationship. But if that goal changes, aka after you graduate, a lot of people's friendships split away. Why? Because now you guys don't have the shared goals anymore. You might have some similar interests, but that's not the same depth of relationship. And I think at the highest level is shared values.
Okay. And so interests, goals, values.
Yeah. And these values are like what determines the long-term success of the relationship. If I value being a boss and being an entrepreneur, that's going to be doing today and 50 years from now. It's about my mindset. It's how I think about the world fundamentally, like what you value, right? And those things, like, is what, like, is that slow burning fire. That's the thing where it's like, yo, this is a businessman, right? We had a conversation. This is a businessman and he loves his family and whatever. We don't have any interest in common, right? We don't have any goals. No, I'm saying, like, just hypothetically, we don't have any interest in common. We don't have any goals in common, right? But just the fact that we value the same thing, I'm going to always remember this person. I'm going to come back. I'm going to call him in a year. And maybe 3 years from now, me and that person end up doing business together. Now, think about it, right? I was talking about you playing intramural basketball, you going to college with someone, you starting a business venture with someone. Like, there's levels to the depth of a relationship that you'll have with someone that you start a business venture with versus someone I just played pickup soccer or basketball with. It's completely different levels. And I think, like I said, shared interest, shared goals, shared values. Mm. I know, like, I don't even know if I answered your question, but
no, no, because I was the reason why I asked this question was for myself as well, because although I know I am elevating mentally and spiritually, all that good stuff, it's still good to learn from someone who's older than me and understand like how the relationships work. And when you said that slow fire, it reminded me of Naruto. So in Naruto, there is this phrase, and it's called the Will of Fire, right? And all shinobi, ninja, whatever it is, like they won't get it, but a few select people will get it. And what it is the mindset. So Naruto, when he was a teenager and even as a kid, he was always saying, I'm gonna become Hokage. I'm gonna become Hokage. I'm gonna be the one.
Is that like the Avatar?
No, it's not the Avatar. It's more so like the leader of the village, of the Hidden Leaf Village. And he's like, I'm going to be that. You guys are going to respect me. I'm going to make sure that this whole place is crazy, like in terms of like production, whatever it is, right? Everyone's like, what are you talking about, nigga? Like, you're like the weakest person here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you suck. Like, this person is way better than you. He doesn't even try. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that inside of him, he had these values and he had this kind of mindset. Now, obviously, his friends had completely different interests than him, right? But the friends that he grew up with, he known since he was a kid, and now they're adults and they're all really still close friends, right? But it's because of that will of fire that he had so many good relationships with people. Like there is right now I'm watching like the original series when he was a kid, and there is this part where they are helping this bridge builder go to this next village because there's people that are trying to attack him because they're like, oh, if we kill him, then the bridge won't be built, and we'll have pretty much like a soul, a monopoly pretty much, right? And so Naruto came across this kid who got affected from the people who were having the monopoly in the village. And he was always crying because his dad died. He was like the hero in the village and he didn't believe in heroes, whatever it is. But Naruto, regardless, he would get in his face. He's like, I don't give a f-. They didn't really say that to a 5-year-old. I don't give a f-. Nah, but he said, I don't care what you say. I'm a hero and I'm going to show you like, you know, the value. And the thing is, this kid is like 5 years old and Naruto's like 12. But just from that interaction, that kid will always remember Naruto because he showed him like, you have to believe in yourself if you ever want to do something. No one else is ever going to believe in you. And so just from that interaction, like they became not necessarily the bestest of friends, but that relationship is way more strong than if he just passed by somebody and just said, you know, talked about ramen or something. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all different ballparks. So that's why right now I'm a big advocate on centering your lifestyle around those that you admire. You know what I'm saying? Instead of it being from a place of jealousy or envy, surround yourself with people that you admire and be like, yo, like they're doing this. That makes me want to do this even more. They have this kind of value and this kind of like fire in their heart. That makes me want to do this. You know what I'm saying? And that you don't even have to talk to them all the time. You know what I'm saying? That's the one thing about like friendships or relationships I learned. You don't have to talk to people all the time if you don't want to. But also, we're all living life. You know what I'm saying? Like when I see you, I'll see you. You know what I'm saying? It's not even a place of hurt or you didn't call me. It's like, yo, we're living life. You know what I'm saying? And when we engage with each other, it's exactly how we left off.
The only thing sorry.
You're good. You're good.
Okay. You know the story about the bridge builder?
The one I was just talking about?
Kinda.
Okay, explain.
So there's this guy, right?
Okay.
He builds bridges for a living. Mm-hmm. He built 10,000 bridges.
Oh. I know exactly what you're talking about now.
He built 10,000 bridges.
10,000 of them.
10,000 bridges. And he sucked one dick.
He's a dick sucker.
When you said bridge building, that's the first thing I thought for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, anyways, for you guys who don't know, right? The guy builds 10,000 bridges. He sucks one. He's now a dick sucker. He's not a bridge builder. Like, it's an unfortunate reality of the world we live in, bro.
Yeah.
How much?
We have about 12 minutes left.
Okay, all right, cool,
Yeah.
cool. You know, like, if you want to, so for me, I guess, to finish answering, I answered, I think, part of it, like, finish answering it kind of like, if you think about your, like, how can you level up? How can you boss up, whatever, right? I described from you the depths of relationship from interest to values, right? So it's like interest, then goals, then values. What you want to do as an individual is flip it, right? A lot of people tell you, "Oh, you just got heartbroken. Oh, jump into your hobbies." Bull, right? That's one of the last things you do. The first thing you do is you have to sit down with yourself and figure out what are your values, right? Let me make sure that like I didn't lose my values in this past relationship. Let me make sure that like I still what it is that, and over time the things that you value in life change.
That's true.
Right. Like at some age, some people value creative freedom and exploration and blah
Yeah.
blah blah. And then they have a kid. And then their value changes. And then it's my number one value is to raise my daughter to be a great woman. And say someone else is in a job. My number one, I'm about coming up for promotion. My number one value, and it's kind of like that, kind of crosses the line between goal and value, kind of. But it's really like on a value hierarchy. That's what we're talking about. So at all times, you need clear value hierarchy. What is the most important thing to me right now? Then what is next? Then what is next? Because that helps you organize your day and your life moving forward. From there, you figure out, all right, what is it that I want to accomplish now? Now that I know what's important to me, what is it that I want to accomplish? Oh, it's important to me to have a kid. My goal then should be to get married and have raise a family or whatever. Like you start to figure out the goals, right? Because now you made your values. Now you figure out what goals do you have. Okay, you have a whole bunch of free time now. You're not in a relationship. The last thing you do after you figure out your values, you clarify, your values, and you figure out your goals or whatever.
Yeah.
Is then you go into your interest and you start interacting with other people, because your interest is where you interact with other people on a casual level. Your goals and your values is where you interact with people on an emotional and intellectual level.
Okay.
So you go out there, the final thing you do is you go to the pickup basketball or you go to the mixed league kickball, whatever, and then you meet bad shawty at the kickball league with the fatty at the kickball league, right? And what? You guys have that shared interest of kickball, but you spent the time working on your goals and your values. What are you looking at the camera for, bro?
When will you ever meet a shawty with a fatty at a kickball league?
Bro, hypothetically.
I know. I was just thinking, I was like,
Listen.
you just at a kickball league just doing your thing and just running, like you run into the base, like, damn, shawty. Like,
girl working third base, thick.
thick.
Girl, thicker than the base.
No, I agree, though. I agree. Like, I think what I've just learned in the past like 3 years is let's say for instance you did get your heart broken, whatever it is. A lot of times they're like, oh, start getting money, focus on yourself. And okay, that's true, right?
True.
That's all true. But if you don't allow yourself to process everything that just happened, you know what I'm saying, you will still feel hurt 2 years later. That's the reason why dudes will
Why
feel...
did this relationship fail?
Yeah, and you have to ask yourself that question, like, why did this relationship fail? And one thing that people don't like to admit is that, now, obviously, there are the outliers where it's like, no, it was just this person, like, they are the toxic,
Yeah,
cool.
Someone dated Hitler.
Yeah, pretty much, like, someone dated Hitler. But majority of the time, you had fault into it, too. There's no, I hate it. I absolutely hate it when people go on social media or people, talk about their relationships, and you can hear this in men and women too, and they victimize themselves and they put it to like, oh, but they never listened to me, and if you ever did me, if we never talk again, like it's because of you. It's like, what do you mean? You had part into this relationship too. You mean to tell me you didn't do anything wrong? Bullshit. Nigga, you know what I'm saying? So like, I think people should actually look inside themselves and be like, yo, what did I do wrong in the relationship? And it might take a while because we don't like to admit our mistakes. You feel me? Like, we don't like to admit when we're wrong. But when you're able to see like, oh, damn, it's because I did this. Okay, let me see. Now that I learned, what kind of values do I want to put into my next relationship, but also into myself? Okay, from there, what are my goals in life? You know what I'm saying? Like who do I want to surround myself with? What kind of energy do I want to surround myself with? And then I think that's why I said, like, when you have that strong, stable connection with the earth, when the earth is like just you, pretty much, like when you have that strong, stable connection with yourself, then you can venture out and have that olive branch to other people who might have a casual, friendship with it, so that you don't get that codependency and you don't get like when someone just shows you the slightest bit of respect, you're like, love? It's like, no, not at all.
You know what people are gonna say you're doing though? It's another one of those words people use. They're gonna say you're victim blaming. I have a question, right? Right? Like, what's like, I understand, right? Victim blaming. But victim blaming has become, you have no accountability for the things that happen to you. You know, victim blaming has very much transformed into loss of free will, or like as if life happens to you instead of through you.
Yeah,
You know?
Now, obviously, like there are events and things that will happen to you. It's like, yo, you didn't have any kind of like word or say into it. You know what I'm saying? People who have traumatic experiences, people like you said, their dad left on them. You didn't. You know what I mean?
You had no choice
I'm not
whether
gonna
your
pull
dad
up on
left.
you. It's like, yeah, nigga, your dad left you
Yeah,
because
right.
you did this. It's
Because
like,
you were crying too much, nigga.
Yeah,
That's
it's
why
like-
your dad left you.
No, it's like, no, there are obviously things in life that you have no control over, right? But the simple things, relationships, grades, why you didn't accomplish a certain goal, that's on you, my nigga.
Bro,
And I'm not gonna blame you as in like, oh, you're a terrible person, but you have the sole responsibility for it. That's not, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Bro, and that,
That's
sorry
not
to cut
victim
you
blaming.
off, but remember how earlier I was like, bro, if you can't give the empathy to your own family members, you're not gonna give it to another like new random person in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? And like that's part of it is like, you know, oh, maybe all this bad stuff happened with my family, you know, it wasn't my fault, whatever. You approach all these relationships like, you know, like it didn't work out, like it wasn't my fault. He thought this way, she thought this way. Like it's like, you know how much resentment I have towards like people. I used to hold resentment over people I dated. Like I used to like I used to be like, man, fuck that girl. Like I used to be like, yo, like, man, I can't believe she, and I'd get upset. You know, I'd be
Yeah,
like,
me too.
man, like I can't, like, nah, screw this and blah. Bro, I love the fact that I'm at peace with every, like, there's not one girl that I dated that I'm not really at peace with, like the situation that happened. And a lot of those girls did me wrong. But I'm completely at peace with it. Why? Because if I hold on to that stuff, I'm going to bring it into every relationship I have moving forward. And I don't want that because I'm not weak enough that I'm going to let them control my life in that way.
That's true.
I'm a man.
I was gonna also say, like, you have to empathize with yourself as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, the mistakes that you probably had in the relationship, whatever,
Yes.
you have to forgive yourself. It's like, I'm not that same person from 3 years ago. Ahmed is a completely different person. And similar to you, like, I remember in our early episodes, maybe like episode like 3 or 4, you mentioned like you need to make amends with, you know, relationships. And ever since then, I was like, you know what? You're right. So anytime I will catch myself thinking about somebody that I've had a past relationship with, I'm like, you know what? Let me reach out and let me make amends, not only for them, but for myself, so that there's no control, there's no resentment. So like, I'm not gonna say like, oh, 100%. Like there might be a few. I'm like, we haven't had that conversation yet, but that's okay. Like I think that's like 95% of the time for me. It's like I have no grudge whatsoever between anybody, because like, yo, that was the past, man. Like I'm a completely different man. Like I am bossed up. I'm still bossing up. I'm bossed up at where I'm at right now.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong. Like I'll tell you everything you did wrong. I ain't forget shit.
Oh
But
no,
but I forgave you.
not at all. I didn't
and
forget
not even
nothing.
just forgave
I
you.
didn't
The way I
forget nothing.
phrase
That's
it,
what it is.
yeah, the way I phrase it is not like I forgave you. The way I like to phrase it is I forgave the situation. You know, like because that absolves everyone of like the mistakes that were made at the time. Even though, like, let's be honest, sometimes I be having only like 10% of the responsibility. But as long as I can forgive that, then like you have to live with 90% of the responsibility.
Do
Like,
you think 10%?
what?
You said you had 10% of the responsibility.
Not in every. No, I'm saying even though some situations.
Oh,
say
some.
for-
Okay, yeah,
like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
in,
yeah.
even
Fair.
I'm saying even in the situations where I was only 10% wrong
Mm-hmm.
and I had to forgive, like it's still worth it because I didn't forget what happened. You have to live with all that shit that happened too. But I forgave the situation. I forgave you for what you did. You've never made amends, I can tell, because you never reached out to apologize or
Yeah.
to talk about this. So you're harboring all of that inside of you. And I know you're bringing that into your next relationship and the one after that. And it's like I had a girl that I dated, right? I'll keep this real short. There was a girl that I dated, like literally like 1 minute. A girl that I dated, she did me wrong. She did me wrong. I did you wrong.
Baby. Go ahead.
So like this chick I dated, right? She did me wrong. And like we ended up, splitting apart, whatever. Even after everything that happened, I reached out to her to be like, hey, no hard feelings. Like, let's be cool, She wasn't interested in the conversation, right? And I was like, all right, cool. Like I kind of just left it at that point. I saw at some point that she had entered into another relationship. She dated the dude for a few years. Like years, you know what I'm saying? They broke up. She's single right now. When I first heard they broke up, the very first thing I thought was, I knew it. Like the very first, because, and it's not like I wanted the relationship to fail, right? Because I don't know her and I don't know him like that. You know what I'm saying? But what I do know is that you're not gonna be happy until you overcome this. And you can't overcome it without addressing me, And so what I kind of just stood off of is the fact that, all right, we're human beings. We're a lot more similar than we are different. If I feel this way because of something, you probably feel that way too, whether you're conscious about it or not.
Yeah, 100%. I was just thinking in my head before we ended off. I was just thinking like you're just like chilling, whatever, and then you find out that like they break up and you're just like Chris move. Ladies, nah. But
like Birdman.
Hey man. Thank you guys for listening to this podcast.
We're done?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. Like we wouldn't have gone this far without y'all's support. We love you guys so much. Stay tuned. Like we're still consistently making stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is Ahmed.
And your boy Luffy.
And this is the Brotherly Love Podcast. Thank you guys so much. Peace.